the gleaming conference room of a top-tier tech firm in Silicon Valley, a young Latina custodian, long dismissed as invisible, stepped forward to save a high-stakes deal when the interpreter vanished. Instead of gratitude, she faced mockery, was humiliated before the team, and handed a $50 gas station gift card as a reward. They expected her to retreat to her cleaning cart, head bowed, and stay in her place. They were wrong. The next time she entered that boardroom, those who ridiculed her would face the consequences. Before we dive into this story, drop a comment to let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Elliot Harper's desk phone blared like a fire alarm, slicing through the tense silence of his corner office at Nexus Dynamics. Below, 3 polished SUVs glided into the parking lot of the company's Palo Alto headquarters, their tinted windows reflecting the California sun. The Delgado delegation from Mexico City was just 25 minutes away. Elliot, the driven CEO of Nexus Dynamics, slammed his fist on the polished mahogany desk, the sharp thud echoing through the sleek, glass-walled office overlooking Silicon Valley's rolling hills. The future of his company, a rising star in AI-driven logistics, teetered on the edge. "Unbelievable!" he roared, his voice thick with frustration. "How do we not have a Spanish interpreter for a deal this critical?" With the phone still pressed to his ear, Claire Morton, his executive assistant, spoke in a clipped tone, her irritation barely veiled. "Mr. Harper, I've called every agency in the Bay Area. No one's available on this short notice for a meeting of this magnitude. We've already botched 2 major contracts this quarter. Are we really going to lose Delgado Enterprises over this?" Her words carried a sharp edge, subtly pinning the blame on Elliot, as if his oversight had led them to this crisis. Elliot tugged at his tailored navy tie, the smooth fabric now feeling like a noose tightening around his neck. Sweat beaded on his forehead, catching the soft glow of the office's LED lights. This deal, a potential $75 million partnership with Delgado Enterprises to streamline cross-border supply chains, was a make-or-break moment for Nexus Dynamics. The Mexican delegation was known for its precision and pride in business dealings. A half-baked translation app or awkward gestures would be an insult. The room felt suffocating, the weight of the impending failure pressing down on everyone. Amid the rising panic, a quiet voice broke through, soft yet steady, like a breeze cutting through smog. "Excuse me, Mr. Harper, I'm fluent in Spanish." All eyes snapped to the source. Sofia Alvarez, 27, stood in the doorway, her hand still gripping a mop handle, dressed in the standard gray custodial uniform of Nexus Dynamics maintenance staff. For 3 years, she'd cleaned the executive suites, moving through the offices like a ghost, silent, efficient, unnoticed. She'd paused her nightly tasks, drawn by the escalating tension in the room. The silence that followed her words was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of the air conditioning, amplifying her sudden, startling presence. Claire let out a sharp, dismissive scoff, her voice dripping with condescension. "Sophia, please. This isn't a game, sweetheart. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar deal, not pocket change from a vending machine. Know your place." Her gaze raked over Sophia, as if she were a smudge on the glass walls, a stark reminder of the rigid hierarchy separating them. Elliot studied Sophia, his hazel eyes narrowing as he tried to place her face, a flicker of recognition buried beneath years of oversight. "You speak Spanish?" His tone was a mix of skepticism and desperation, his mind racing for any lifeline. He registered Claire's hostility, but was too cornered to address it. "Spanish, Portuguese, and some French," Sophia replied, her voice steady as she met Elliot's scrutiny and Claire's sneer with unwavering calm. "I studied Latin American business at UC Berkeley before I started working here. My focus was on cross-cultural negotiations and supply chain logistics. She'd never imagined that 3 years of scrubbing floors and wiping down desks in these executive suites would lead to this pivotal moment. A memory flashed through her mind. Late nights in her cramped Oakland apartment, the dim glow of a second-hand laptop illuminating Spanish trade journals, the faint scent of her father's heart medication lingering in the air. She'd paused her degree at Berkeley when his health declined, the mounting medical bills forcing her to take this custodial job. But she'd never stopped learning. Books, online courses, and overheard boardroom conversations had been her classroom, her hunger for knowledge, a lifeline through the hardship. Claire's expression shifted from surprise to irritation, then outright disdain. "Elliot, you can't be serious. A custodian leading our most critical meeting of the year. You're staking Nexus Dynamics on a nobody? What about our reputation?" Her voice was sharp, like a teacher scolding a reckless child, implying she alone safeguarded the company's prestige. Elliot was at his breaking point. Something in Sophia's demeanor, her quiet confidence, her unyielding poise, stood in stark contrast to the daily disregard she endured. He had no other options. "Prove it," he said firmly, his voice cutting through the tension. "Say something in Spanish." Sophia took a deep breath, her heart pounding, not from fear, but from a surge of purpose. Her entire life seemed to have built to this moment. She spoke in flawless Spanish, her words flowing with the precision and warmth of a seasoned diplomat, delivering a formal business greeting used in Mexican corporate culture. The room fell silent. Elliot, though unable to understand the words, felt the authority, the fluidity, and the confidence in her voice. A pang of guilt flickered in his chest. How much talent had he overlooked, distracted by corporate priorities and people like Claire? "What did you say?" he asked, his tone softer now. "It's a formal greeting in Mexican business culture," Sophia translated calmly, without a hint of smugness. "It's an honor to meet you, and we look forward to a partnership that benefits us all. We value your commitment to precision and collaboration." Claire folded her arms, her face sour, her eyes darting to Elliot. "You can't be serious, Elliot. What will the Mexicans think when you stick a janitor in an executive meeting? Is this your diversity stunt? I'm your assistant. This undermines me." Her words were a calculated jab, a reminder of her years of loyalty and her perceived indispensability. A bitter memory surged in Sophia's mind, sharp and searing. 6 months earlier, she'd overheard Claire in the executive lounge, her voice venomous through the closed door. "That Latina girl keeps lingering near important meetings like she belongs. Why does Elliot tolerate people like her? She's just a cleaner." Sophia had continued mopping, her heart sinking, each word etching itself into her memory like a scar. She'd swallowed the pain, but it had fueled her resolve. "You have 20 minutes to prepare," Elliot said, ignoring Claire's stunned glare. "Find something professional to wear and meet me in the conference room. The Delgado delegation just texted. They're running a few minutes late to finalize some details." Sophia felt a wave of emotions, relief, disbelief, and a simmering pride, but above all, determination. She wouldn't let Elliot down, and more importantly, she wouldn't let herself down. As she turned to leave, Claire muttered loudly enough for Elliot to hear, "You've lost it, Elliot. When this crashes, it'll tank your career and your woke experiment. I've been loyal for years, and you're betting on her?" Her words were not just frustration, but a desperate attempt to reassert her control and remind Elliot of her past contributions. Elliot didn't respond, his gaze fixed on the door as Sophia exited. For the first time in years, a spark of hope flickered in his chest. He'd been so consumed by boardroom politics and Claire's polished efficiency that he'd failed to notice the potential right under his nose. What he didn't know was that Sophia had been preparing for this moment far longer than anyone could imagine. And Claire, with her thinly veiled prejudice and arrogance, was about to learn the cost of underestimating someone based on their title. 20 minutes later, Sophia returned to the conference room, and the room fell silent, the air thick with astonishment. She'd swapped her gray custodial uniform for a sharp black blazer and pencil skirt, borrowed from Emily, the front desk admin who always greeted Sophia with a warm smile and a quick chat about the day's news. Sophia's dark hair was neatly pinned back, and she carried a tablet, moving with the poise of an executive. Her transformation was striking, but it was her quiet confidence that commanded the room. "Good grief, Mark," the CFO whispered to a colleague, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Is that really the same woman who cleans our offices?" While Sophia had been changing, Emily had pulled her aside in the break room, her voice low and urgent. "Go get him, Sophia. I've seen Claire act shady with big contracts before. Switching numbers, losing emails. Don't trust her when she's playing nice." The warning planted a seed of caution in Sophia's mind, sharpening her focus. Claire didn't bother lowering her voice as she leaned toward her assistant, Jessica. "You can dress up coal, but it's still coal. Cheap stays cheap, no matter the packaging." Her words were a deliberate strike, meant to undermine Sophia's confidence and reinforce the status quo. Jessica nodded, smirking, as if the comment was a shared joke among the elite. Sophia felt the familiar sting of their words, a bitter echo of the slights she'd endured for years. But she'd learned to channel that pain into fuel. She thought of her father, his weathered hands, and unwavering pride in her resilience, his voice echoing in her mind. "Mija, you're stronger than their words." This moment wasn't just for her. It was for everyone who'd been overlooked, dismissed, or judged by their cover. She straightened her shoulders, met Claire's gaze without flinching, and took her seat. The Delgado delegation arrived precisely on time, 5 impeccably dressed executives settling into the sleek, glass-walled conference room. They chatted in Spanish, their voices warm as they admired the Silicon Valley skyline through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Elliot stood, his voice steady as he made introductions, carefully choosing his words. "This is Sofia Alvarez, our specialist in Latin American markets." The delegation's leader, Mr. Alejandro Delgado, greeted Sofia with a respectful nod, his eyes sharp and assessing. Sofia responded in flawless Spanish, her tone warm yet professional, praising their punctuality and expressing enthusiasm for a mutually beneficial partnership. Delgado's face softened, a spark of genuine approval in his eyes. For the first 15 minutes, Sofia translated with remarkable precision, capturing not just the words, but the cultural nuances, the subtle humor, and the diplomatic undertones that made the Mexican executives smile and nod. The meeting flowed with an unexpected ease, the tension in the room melting away. Then Claire struck. "Sophia," she interrupted, her voice laced with a malicious smile. "Perhaps we should share your unique journey at Nexus Dynamics with our guests. They deserve to know how desperate we were to rely on you." Her tone was patronizing, her gaze sweeping over Sophia like she was an inconvenience to be swept away. Elliot shot Claire a warning glance, his jaw tightening, but she pressed on, undeterred. "It's truly inspiring, isn't it? Rising from the bottom, so to speak." Her words were a calculated jab, meant to humiliate Sophia and reassert her own authority. Sophia's chest tightened, memories flooding back. Dropping out of Berkeley halfway through her junior year to care for her father, the sleepless nights studying by lamplight, the exhaustion of working night shifts while dreaming of a better future. She'd faced judgment before, classmates who sneered at her secondhand clothes, professors who doubted her potential. But this was different. This was her chance to prove them all wrong. As Mr. Delgado outlined a proposed $75 million investment for a joint AI logistics platform, Sophia translated with precision, her voice steady. Claire leaned toward Elliot, speaking just loud enough for the delegation to hear. "She's mistaken, Elliot. Mr. Delgado said $25 million, not 75. Spanish numbers can be tricky for some people." Turning to Delgado in English, she added with a saccharine smile, "Just a minor translation error. $25 million, correct?" Delgado's brow furrowed, his discomfort evident. The room grew tense, the delegation's polite smiles fading. Sophia felt a surge of anger, but took a slow breath, her composure unshaken. In perfect Spanish, she addressed Delgado directly. "Pardon me, Mr. Delgado. To clarify, you proposed an initial investment of $75 million, correct?" Delgado nodded, his eyes flickering with surprise and respect. "Exactly, Ms. Alvarez. Thank you for the clarity." Sophia turned to Elliot, her voice calm but firm. "Sir, Mr. Delgado confirmed $75 million. She looked directly at Claire, her gaze unwavering. "Clarity in financial matters is critical, Ms. Morton. A person's worth isn't tied to their title, but to their actions." The silence that followed was heavy, almost suffocating. Delgado's expression shifted, not to disdain, but to a quiet unease. In Mexican business culture, hierarchy and professionalism were paramount, and Sophia's custodial role, combined with Claire's blatant sabotage, raised questions. The delegation's warmth cooled, their polite smiles now tinged with curiosity and skepticism. Elliot quickly interjected, his voice strained as he tried to salvage the moment. "What Claire means is that we value talent from all corners of our organization." He shot her another sharp look, realizing she'd crossed a line, but he hadn't yet grasped the full extent of her toxicity. The damage was done. For the next 15 minutes, Sophia felt the delegation's gazes shift. They remained polite, engaging when she translated, but the ease was gone. She'd become an oddity in their eyes, not a peer. Something crystallized within her, not humiliation, but resolve. "They can doubt me," she thought, "but they can't deny what I've done." 3 years of cleaning these offices, overhearing strategies, deals, and missteps, had armed her with a wealth of knowledge. She'd absorbed every word, every tactic, every blunder, storing them like weapons for a moment like this. The meeting concluded with a tentative preliminary agreement. The Delgado delegation promised to review the proposal carefully, a diplomatic way of saying they'd explore other options. Their parting nods, though polite, lacked the warmth of their arrival, signaling a decline in interest. After the meeting, Elliot, still reeling from Sophia's performance, called Claire into his office. His voice was firm, tinged with both gratitude and shame. "Sophia saved us from a massive loss today. I want you to ensure she's compensated properly. A raise, a bonus, and explore a role for her in our international division." Claire stiffened, her eyes narrowing with barely concealed resentment. "Of course, Elliot," she replied, her voice eerily sweet. "I'll make sure Sophia gets what she deserves." As she turned away, a smirk flickered across her lips, unnoticed by Elliot. That afternoon, Sophia received an email from HR. It contained a $50 gas station gift card and a generic letter of commendation that made no mention of her translation work or the Delgado meeting. Worse, her custodial shift was extended by an hour, citing staffing adjustments. Claire had personally edited the email, her smile cold as she hit send, ensuring the reward was a deliberate insult. Sophia stood in the break room, staring at the gift card in her hand, a familiar bitterness rising in her throat. She knew this was Claire's doing, not Elliot's betrayal, but Claire's deliberate sabotage, twisting his orders into a humiliating slap. The card wasn't just an insult. It was a message. You're still nothing. But in that moment, a cold glint sparked in Sophia's eyes. She wouldn't just prove her worth. She'd expose the injustice and dismantle Claire's carefully constructed facade. 2 hours later, Sophia was back in her gray uniform, pushing her cleaning cart through the executive wing. But every movement was calculated, her senses sharp. For 3 years, she'd memorized snippets of conversations, documents left carelessly on desks, and Claire's questionable decisions, supplier switches that cost millions, emails lost at critical moments, and biased hiring practices that sidelined talent. She'd jotted them down in a small notebook, piecing together a puzzle of mismanagement. Claire's voice echoed down the hall as she chatted with Jessica from accounting. "Look who's back where she belongs," she said loudly, ensuring Sophia and nearby executives heard. "After today's pathetic stunt, we know who's trash. Right, Jessica?" Snickers rippled from nearby offices, some muttering, "Good for her," as if relieved to see Sophia put in her place. After the meeting, Claire had approached Elliot with a confident smile. "You saw her incompetence, Elliot. I'll call Delgado and explain her mistake. My professionalism can still salvage this deal." Elliot's eyes narrowed, suspicion growing, but he lacked concrete evidence to act. He nodded, deciding to observe her closely. Sophia's phone buzzed discreetly as she cleaned. A message in Spanish appeared from an unknown number, but she recognized the sender immediately. Mr. Delgado. "Ms. Alvarez, your skills and composure impressed us. Please contact my advisor, Ms. Elena Rivera, to discuss a potential opportunity." Sophia's pulse quickened, a cold thrill running down her spine. This wasn't luck. It was the result of years of perseverance, of swallowing insults, of studying through exhaustion. A faint smile touched her lips. Someone had finally seen her. That night, in her small Oakland apartment, Sophia sat at her worn kitchen table, the city's lights twinkling through her window. She opened a file on her laptop titled Nexus Dynamics Insights, a meticulous record of 3 years' worth of observations. It contained detailed notes on Claire's decisions, unexplained cost overruns, questionable supplier changes, and patterns of discriminatory hiring practices. Sophia had always carried a notebook, scribbling fragments of overheard deals, numbers that didn't add up, and decisions that seemed illogical. At night, she'd piece them together, building a comprehensive picture of Nexus Dynamics' weaknesses. The next day, Sophia met Ms. Rivera at a bustling Palo Alto cafe, dressed in a simple but elegant suit, purchased with her first college savings. Rivera, the vice president of Delgado Enterprises International Division, greeted her warmly in Spanish. "Ms. Alvarez, your fluency was impressive, but your composure under pressure was extraordinary, a true leader's quality. We were particularly struck by how you maintained professionalism despite deliberate misrepresentation." For 2 hours, Sophia spoke fluently about market strategies, cultural nuances in U.S.-Mexican negotiations, and Nexus Dynamics' recent failures. She subtly outlined patterns of mismanagement, stalled projects, inflated budgets, and lost clients, without directly naming Claire. Instead, she framed them as industry challenges, her analysis sharp and incisive. Rivera slid a business card across the table. Global Partners Consulting. The offer was a senior strategist role with a salary 6 times her custodial pay, with one condition: assist in investigating Nexus Dynamics contract irregularities. "There's an urgent meeting at Nexus tomorrow," Rivera said, her voice low. The Delgado delegation filed a formal complaint about contract violations that could trigger a federal investigation. Your presence is critical. That night, Sophia called her father, her voice steady but emotional. "Papa, you always said patience is a warrior's strongest weapon." "I did, Mija," he replied, his voice warm with pride. "Why now?" "I finally understand what you meant." Sophia hung up, gazing at Oakland's skyline. She remembered the helplessness of dropping out of Berkeley, the nights spent studying by lamplight, the exhaustion of working double shifts in her custodial uniform. Those years had forged her, sharpening her mind and resolve. Tomorrow, Claire and Nexus Dynamics would discover that 3 years of being invisible had created a strategist who knew every secret, every lie, every weakness in the company. The next morning, the Nexus Dynamics boardroom buzzed with tension. Elliot had called an emergency meeting after receiving Delgado's formal complaint about contract irregularities that risked federal scrutiny. Claire strode in, her bold blue suit exuding confidence, ready to pin the blame on Sophia. "We're here to address yesterday's chaos," she told the 7 board members, her voice smooth but accusatory. "As I warned, bringing an unqualified employee into a high-stakes negotiation was reckless. It's cost us $150 million, and I feel responsible as Elliot's assistant to protect Nexus Dynamics' reputation." Just then, Sophia entered, dressed in a sleek gray suit, carrying a briefcase and laptop. She moved with the confidence of someone who'd found their place. "Apologies for my delay," she said calmly, taking a seat beside Elliot. "I was finalizing critical data for this meeting." Claire's face twisted with contempt. "With all due respect, Elliot, why is she here? This is an executive meeting, not a place for janitors to eavesdrop." Her words were a direct attack, dripping with disdain. "She's here," Elliot replied coldly, his eyes flashing with disappointment. "Because the Delgado delegation specifically requested her presence to clarify their allegations." Sophia opened her laptop, her voice steady and commanding. "Ladies and gentlemen, the issue isn't a translation error. It's a pattern of mismanagement that's cost Nexus Dynamics millions. Take last year's Horizon project, overseen by Claire Morton. Costs ran 35% over budget due to her unexplained supplier switches, selecting less efficient partners and delaying progress. I observed these decisions while working late shifts, cleaning the very offices where these choices were made." The room fell silent, the air thick with shock. Claire tried to interrupt, her voice shrill. "This is a farce. She's making this up for revenge because I exposed her place. A low-class nobody," Sophia continued, unfazed. "Furthermore, we've lost key clients due to biased hiring practices. Ms. Morton frequently disqualified talented candidates based on their names or backgrounds, instructing HR to prioritize fit over qualifications. I overheard these directives multiple times. These discriminatory practices have cost Nexus Dynamics golden opportunities and damaged its reputation." Claire leapt to her feet, her face red with fury. "She's lying! Mr. Harper, are you going to let this girl ruin the company with her delusions?" Sophia remained seated, her gaze locked on Claire, seeing the fear beneath her outrage. Company standards, ethics, integrity, and compliance with federal anti-discrimination laws have been systematically violated over the past 18 months, leading to a decline in performance and trust. She clicked her laptop, projecting a chart of Nexus's financial losses tied to Claire's decisions, each data point meticulously sourced from her years of observation. The boardroom was deathly quiet. Elliot stared at Claire, his face a mask of betrayal. "Claire," he said, his voice low and cold, "you've crossed a line. You're fired." Claire's file of misconduct was handed to authorities, triggering an internal investigation. Thanks to Sophia's sharp analysis and documented evidence, Nexus Dynamics cleared its name and committed to sweeping reforms. A week later, Elliot invited Sophia to a private meeting in his office. He gestured for her to sit across from him, his eyes filled with respect. "Sophia, you didn't just save that contract, you saved our reputation. I was blind, too focused on the wrong priorities, letting people like Claire obscure true talent. I failed to see what was right in front of me. Sophia smiled faintly, her voice steady. I've never held a title, Mr. Harper. I've only known hard work. Then it's time to change that, Elliot said. I want to create a new role. Cultural strategist for global markets. You'll bridge languages, cultures, and business dynamics, something we've stumbled over for years. Your fluency, experience, and resilience make you more qualified than most of our board. I once trusted someone with a perfect resume who nearly sank us with arrogance. I won't make that mistake again. Sophia's eyes widened, her voice catching. Is this real? As real as it gets, Elliot replied, his tone firm. You don't have a degree, but you have something better. Life experience, grit, and a mind sharper than most. We'll provide training, a clothing allowance, whatever you need. And don't worry about your shift downstairs. We'll find someone to fill it, but no one can replace you. In the months that followed, Sophia thrived, reshaping Nexus Dynamics' global strategy. She negotiated deals with precision, corrected errors in past contracts, and inspired those around her. Under her guidance, Elliot launched the Hidden Talent Initiative, a program to identify and develop overlooked employees through language training, leadership coaching, and advancement opportunities. The company's culture shifted, valuing ability over credentials. 6 months later, Sophia was invited to speak at a prestigious tech summit in San Francisco. Standing before industry leaders, she shared her story, not as a tale of personal triumph, but as a wake-up call to corporate America. Talent doesn't always wear a suit or carry a degree, she said, her voice resonating with quiet power. It's in the people you pass by every day, the ones who work in silence, who see everything. Give them a chance, and they'll change your world. Join us for more stories that inspire and challenge. Hit like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to start your day with lessons that hit deep.